Welcome to the CURES Show, where we explore the cutting edge of wellness. I'm Kara Sundlin. So burnout is a real thing, and it's actually causing a lot of women to leave the fields that they're so talented in. So how can high performers find more happiness and ease the stress? I'm joined by Betsy Kauffman. She is a stress management expert, and she's here to discuss the alarming levels of stress and sadness that some women are facing and to learn how to help women reduce it so that we can feel happier and more fulfilled personally and professionally. Welcome, Betsy.
Hi, Kara. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and talk about this really important topic that seems to be happening all across America and the world and what we're seeing in women today.
Yeah, so let's start with levels of stress, anxiety, worry, sadness, anger among women worldwide are actually at a 10-year high, according to a report. And 43% of women say they experience worry, about the same feel stress, and 32% say sadness. So what do we do with that information?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously the first thing to do is acknowledge it, right? It is okay because based on your stats and based on how the world is kind of a little crazy right now, acknowledge that you are under stress or you are sad or you are depressed. And there are certain triggers that we can find. It could usually be in your health, right? Are you having headaches? Are you waking up sad? Do you have anxiety? So I would say the very first step is to just look internally and acknowledge what is going on and really try to figure out, like, what is that? What is triggering it? And just kind of lean into it and be okay with it. So that would be the very first step, is just to face it head on.
Okay, so we have to acknowledge it. And then I know you run lots of coaching groups to help really busy women. Is it different when you're a high-performing woman? We often think, I can handle anything.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, if you're a high performing woman, you've got a million things coming at you every single day, and you're really trying to figure out, like, how do I manage everything that's happening between work, family, spouses, partners, or you may have aging parents. So you want to understand, what fulfills you, and it's actually not about the milestone moments. I think as high performing women, we sometimes wait to say, well, I'm going to be happy when, or I'm not going to be stressed when my kids are at a certain point, or I get that high performing job, or I move into my dream home. But it really is about, how do you find those moments now, and not those milestone moments. And so within us, we actually have the ability to understand what fulfills us and to find that and live into the daily, and live into the now, the happy now, as opposed to the happy next, which is really what we're seeing across this landscape.
Yeah, so how do we do that? What's something practical we can do that you would teach?
Yeah. So there's a couple things. One, if you're working, look at your day every day and look at your calendar and say, okay, what things bring me stress? What things bring me anxiety? And actually color code them red. And if you're, what things fulfill me? What things make me happy? And color code them green. And then what I would say is lean into that green. Where can you start to eliminate the red that's on your calendar, the red that actually triggers you, that brings you that stress? Can you delegate? Can you outsource? Can you find someone else to do that kind of work, or just stop doing it altogether? So that's one thing. The other thing, of course, is taking care of yourself physically. Exercise, diet, meditation, whatever those triggers are, we have to release them every day. And getting into a really good routine, both physically and mentally, is going to help you to bring down those stress levels and that anxiety and that depression.
Yeah, and I know that some women are going, gosh, I'm already stressed, I can't do more. I have found over time, a morning routine. You're not asking us to spend an hour on a mountain. You're saying, I've read that some CEOs now won't look at their phone until after they've had their breakfast, their workout, and maybe spend some time with their kids, because I know once that phone is picked up, they're going to keep going. So you're not suggesting that people completely ditch their life. It's just turning that daily grind into a more sacred grind.
Absolutely. Figure out what you can turn green, right? Lean into that green. Great point. Do not look at your phone first thing in the moment, because the minute you look at your phone, your mind starts to go in, like, oh, I've got to do this and I've got to do that. I'm going to respond. And then all of a sudden you are triggered and you are feeling stressed. Don't answer the phone. It's going to be okay, because guess what? It will be there when you get to it. Go for a walk, take 15 minutes to do any type of exercise, meditate, spend time with your kids, just really listening and understanding and leaning into them. And just take time for yourself. And even if it is 10 minutes, 15 minutes, get up, walk around, see what's happening in your surroundings, just to clear your brain and your mind is going to help you out tremendously. I have dogs. They also say that when you pet a dog or pet a pet, it actually brings down your stress and your anxiety. So if you need to do that, take 10 minutes and go out in the backyard and throw a ball for your animal, or spend some time with just your pets on the couch if you're working from home. Find those little moments that can help you.
So what about navigating it at work if you're just being given too much to do?
Yeah. So it's definitely okay to say no. I know that's a hard thing to do. And people are like, no, I could not. You don't know where I work or what I do. But here's the thing, we are all under a amount of stress, right? We're all feeling burnout. So you need to figure out what your limitations are and create those boundaries. Figure out what you can accomplish, what you cannot accomplish, and make those priorities, right? Figure this out and say, okay, I'm going to get to this tomorrow, and then just reset expectations. You've got to advocate for yourself at this point, right? And work, as we're seeing more and more, if you don't take care of yourself and become the CEO of your life, right, they're going to actually take over, or they're going to, you're not going to have a job. So create your boundaries, figure out what you can do, put some places in your calendar, block it. Nobody has to know, right? Private appointments. I've got to take some time for myself, and find those boundaries to help manage yourself. Leverage your teammates, leverage your peers. How do we create a team and a community to help each other to kind of shuffle some of this work if you're having a lot of workload as well?
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's good, having some ready practices, or even ready answers of saying, I have a commitment. You don't. I think as women we all over-explain, right? I have a commitment. Oh, my kids have a game, and this and that, and da 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 da. Like, enough. I have a commitment. Is there another time we can do this? That commitment might be that you put some white space on your calendar.
Absolutely. Yeah. So one of the programs that I offer is the collaborative, and we actually do every Friday a 10-minute meditation. And so some of the women have come to me and say, I can't break away. I go, yes, you can. Just block it and say, you're already booked. You can't make that meeting because you have a meeting. Nobody has to know what that meeting is. It's a 10-minute meditation to de-stress and to bring down the anxiety that may be happening within your workday. So again, to your point, we over-explain. Oh, I've got to do this, or no, I have a meeting. I can't make it. I have an appointment. I'm sorry. Let's find another time. Done. Bottom line.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think that's something that women are probably not as good at as men, right? When we do the research, men don't tend to over-explain as much. Women, I don't know, do we feel guilty, or we just say yes before we think?
I think we feel guilty. I think we say yes. I think we feel obligated because we're helpers. We want to help. We want to actually be there for people. I know I'm guilty. I will admit it. Like, I might have time blocked to do something like, well, can you meet at 12 o'clock? Well, okay, I guess. And I'll move it, right? And so I'll sacrifice my own personal needs to actually support somebody, because we're there. We're caregivers, I guess, by nature. And so we do want to please people. And we want to actually be there to support them. But we have to take care of ourselves first before we take care of everybody else. Super critical.
I feel like one of the lessons I learned from my mentor, who a lot of people here in Connecticut know, Denise DeCenzo, she said as she got older, she realized to say, let me just look at my calendar and I'll get back to you. Because our tendency is to say yes and I'll figure it out. But if you take that moment, and of course the really important stuff, we're probably going to move something, but just taking that moment is what you're saying, is just taking an hour, 2 hours, or I'll be back to you by the evening or the morning, can give you some time to decide, is this really something I should do?
Absolutely. That's critical. And I think it also, one, puts the power back into your hands, right? You're in control. So when you say, yes, let me just look at my calendar and I'll get back to you, or I'll just get back to you, you're now back in control of the situation and your calendar and your time, and whether you want to commit to that or not. That's a great, great tip.
So are you finding with the women that you work with, is it more the work-life balance that's the biggest issue versus financial incentives at work, as far as why people are burning out?
Yeah, it's balance for sure, right? Because when we started in the COVID world, we were all doing everything. We had the kids at home, we were working, we were having to just make meals and do everything like that. That I don't think has actually stopped. I think because the expectation is that we were at home and we took on all of these extra duties continues. And so that burnout has continued, and we now feel like we have to be all things to all people. So it is balance, it is being able to say no, and it is finding time for yourself in order to make sure that you are, you're showing up as the best person, both personally and professionally.
So let's talk about delegating. Another thing that maybe women and men do a little differently. I love your phrase of be the CEO of your own life. And I know sometimes when I speak to women, do as I say, not as I do, but I will offer that up too, like identifying your energy drains. And then I think you said somewhere, I might have read, that a metric, I love when you give people something to kind of bounce off, that if somebody else can do this, I don't know if it was you or someone else who wrote this, if somebody else could do it at least 80% as well as you can do it, delegate it.
Yeah, so that's about letting go, right? Because I think again, as women, and I hate to be this generalization, we're a little bit of controlling. We have, things have to be done exactly the way that we want to, but we have to be okay to let go and to delegate. And so outsourcing is phenomenal. Have somebody clean your house, have somebody do your grocery shopping, find other ways, to have somebody take care of your kids, right? If, after school, or do pickup, or, work with other moms or other parents to do that. So definitely need to take control of your life, to delegate and let go a little bit as well. Because if it's good, and like my new term is, and I use this with a lot of my clients, it's got to be good enough. It's good enough. Don't worry about it. Keep moving forward. And I think as we get older, like we start to realize, like, okay, the kids are going to be okay. They're going to be fed at some point, right? The house is going to get clean. The groceries are going to get done. So just let go, because it's going to be good enough at a certain point.
Right. So that's a different metric also, just saying it's good enough, where
Good enough.
maybe perfectionism is something more we've learned of, it's not good enough.
Well, and I see these younger women, like these mothers that are working, and they're like, and I have to make all the Valentine's Day cards, and I have to have the best Easter bunny, baskets and events, and my kids have to live in these major moments. And really, you know what? Your kids actually aren't going to remember all the big, like, glitter and stars and brights and things like that. They're going to remember the moments that you spent with them and that time together, and if you were present or if you were always on your phone. So it's okay to go buy store-bought Valentine's Day cards. It's okay to like outsource and get all your Amazon Easter bunny stuff pulled together, whatever major holiday is coming up. Not everything has to be perfect, right? It's more about what, about caring for them and being with them, and knowing that, that you're there to support them as they get older.
Now, a lot of us make to-do lists to keep us organized. I love that you're telling us to color code, that you can also quickly look at and say, oh, I see a lot of red on my calendar. Maybe I should reduce the red. I have a color for each one of my family, so I can just see what's going on. But before you put something on your to-do list or on your calendar, what should be going through our head, instead of like, yes, I got to cram it all in, I can make it work? Or is it more, how do I want to feel today? Or what are my top priorities?
I think, part of it is, one, how do I want to feel today, right? And if this doesn't get done, what's going to happen? What's the worst thing in the world if I don't do this, right? So you kind of start to judge and prioritize to say, okay, if I don't clean out the closets this weekend, is the world going to come to an end? No, probably not, right? So we can figure out, like, maybe we just do one closet. So prioritize and figure out, like, if I don't do that, is it actually going to, like, is the world going to explode? Probably not, right? So what are the most high priority things that you can do that you need to get done? Because we do have things that we have to get done. I know I have a list of things that I need to do every weekend in order to get my week settled and just head into my week, right? And feel like grounded and balanced and ready to move forward. But then there's other things that I'm like, if it doesn't happen, it's going to come off the calendar. So just understand that prioritization and figure out, like, what is the most critical that's going to actually set you up for success for the next day or the week or whatever you're trying to do. And the other things that can fall lower, eliminate them. They'll eventually get done. I promise you.
So when you coach women, what do you see as, say, and this is a general conversation, but what's one of the biggest problems you're seeing, and what's your solution for it?
I think it is self-doubt, right? So this is maybe a totally different topic, but maybe that goes into some of the anxiety and the stress and the depression, but am I good enough? Am I showing up enough for my family? Am I showing enough for myself at work? Do I know what I want personally? Do I know what I want professionally? And how do I find that fulfillment within myself in order to just be courageous and be strong? So I coach quite a few women, and I often will get like text messages or chats that say, okay, I just went into that, but I don't know that I did well. You did do well. You have the confidence, right? Don't question who you are. You are strong. You are there for a reason, and you're doing a good job. So I think that's the biggest thing, is the self-doubt, right? And questioning who we are.
And we all do that. I guess.
We all do that. It's human nature, right?
Right. I mean, I can say probably everybody I've ever interviewed, and I remember Oprah said the same thing, whether it be a king or, a mom who was starting a business, at the end of the question was, how was that? How did I do? And so sometimes we just need that validation. But what you're saying is just knowing that it's good enough, or maybe even that's your affirmation, I am enough, because right now with social media, there's always this feeling of I should be doing more.
Right. And we all know, so this is the thing, and I'm so happy you brought that up. Social media is not, it's creating a lot of the stress and anxiety and depression, right? Because we see other people, we see their lives, and we're like, oh, I wish I was on this glorious vacation, or I wish I was this high achieving, CEO, or I'm, interviewing with Oprah, or for whatever. But there's also the flip side of that. Not, not everything that you see is reality, and everybody's going through something. You just may not be aware of it. And so you kind of have to balance that and check yourself to say, how are you? How do you find fulfillment in your own self, right? And find that and pull that out. Because social media I think it's actually ruining our generation and our younger generation and everyone, because we're just comparing ourselves and we're creating a lot of that depression and anxiety. I see that a lot in younger women as well. So when I coach women, I see it a lot in their daughters. I see it a lot in the women that my sons bring around and the young girls that my sons bring around. There's always that self-doubt. Am I good enough? Am I pretty enough? Do you like me? Am I, you are enough. Just be you and be authentic and show up that way and show up with that confidence. And you're actually going to exude it and attract more around you that way, for sure.
Right. And often, I guess the real way to get confidence is to have some level of success. So is that one of the things also is some people are really burnt out and they feel like, I don't have a choice. I have to keep working. My family needs me this. They just feel stuck. How do you help people align with what they're really meant to do?
Yeah, so that's part of what our program is, Empowered You. So we are actually on a journey for folks to understand what fulfills them and really understanding what lights you up every single day. Again, not in those milestone moments, not in those happy events, but really what fulfills you. And it is important that you take stock of that. Yes, we all have obligations, but if you're not doing what you love, then why even do it? Right? So we need to find out what actually we enjoy doing, what makes us happy, and start to lean into that direction and find work that does make us happy. So, you can't just quit your job tomorrow because we do have obligations. We all need to make money. We need to support our families, but you can do some of that work and really figure it out and start to lean into that direction. So if you've always had a dream of, I was on a podcast with a woman and we were just talking about the same topic. And she's like, you know what? I just signed up for a personal investigation course because I've always wanted to be a personal investigator and I've been putting it off. And she did it. And it was so exciting. It was such an awesome time because she just went ahead and did it. She's like, I'm going to do something for myself. So that's the first thing is, what do you enjoy and what fulfills you? And go do it. Don't put it away, because the thing is this, time is short and you're going to look back in 10 years and you don't want to say, well, what if, or I should have, or I could have, right? So figure that out. Figure out what actually lights you up. Look at your green, figure out, look at your calendar and continue to live into that moment. Really, really critical.
Yeah. And I think what you're saying is side hustles could be a really good thing. You're not saying walk away and create more stress that you don't have a job anymore if you rely on it. But how do you make that, I guess, that transition? Because women are already feeling burnt out. They feel like they don't have enough time. They'll say, I don't have enough time to meditate. I don't have enough time to eat healthy. And I don't have enough time to start a side hustle. Now, I know people in your world will say, well, you don't have enough time to not care about these things.
Right. I was going to say, if you don't, what actually happens, right? Because if you don't have that time, and it doesn't have to be a side hustle. It doesn't have to be that stress. It could just be like, I love to play tennis. I actually used to play tennis when I was, younger. Go find time and go play tennis. Take your husband, have him deal with the kids, or hire someone to take care of your kids and go take care of yourself. So, I think if you don't take the time for yourself, what's going to happen? What's the flip side of that, right? You're going to end up being extremely burnt out, and you might actually then have serious health problems that you're going to have to deal with, and you're going to wish that you would taken the time now to address them, because we see chronic blood pressure, high blood pressure, diabetes, all the things, stress, strokes, because we aren't taking that time to take care of ourselves. So it doesn't have to be a side hustle. It could just be something you enjoy. I know when I first had my son way long ago, he's almost 19, and I was home, I actually went and did a pottery class, because I needed time away from him when I was on maternity leave to just go and learn how to throw pots and do it. And it was super fun. And I haven't done it for, 18 or 17 years now. And I'm actually looking into how can I get back into a pottery class, just so that I can actually find who I am again and get some hobbies. Because I think as women, we also tend to lose ourselves a little bit. Like, our kids are our everything, and we tend to follow them, right? And we can, their lives become our lives. And we wake up in the morning, we're like, I don't have any hobbies. You are my hobby. And then as they get older and as they they move away and they go to school or whatever they're going to do in their life, you then wake up and be like, wow, now what do I do with myself? Because I didn't take the time to actually take care of myself and do some things that I enjoy as a person.
Yeah, so definitely, time for yourself. Although the idea also of I'll do it all when my kids leave. I hear that from a lot of professional women too.
I hate that.
Oh, well, once the kids are in college, then I'll have time for me, or then, but it's the little things that we're going to do for ourselves. And we're actually, if we do this well, we're going to show our kids that they should matter too. What they love matters. That if you just
I was going to say that. Yeah. I mean, then that's another milestone moment. When my kids are, are in college, then I'm going to be able to do these things. But here's the thing, when you actually can show your kids that you have your own life and your own hobbies, and that you are, you're a great role model for them to pursue themselves as well, and to also keep that balance, right? Because as they get into school, they may start to get stressed out. As they get into life, being an adult is hard, right? Adulting is hard. So how do we help to, show and embody what we want our kids to see in us as happy, fulfilled women?
Yes. Okay. So us running around and screaming and saying we're going to be late all the time is not really the role model. I know all of us that's not what we want.
We've all been there.
Yes. What about corporate culture? I know that's something that you're in tune with. Is it changing? Because it seems like this path of burnout, it's not useful to companies either.
Right. I think we're on a very slow trend. I have to say, I hate to say that, but I work right now in a lot of large companies. And so we aren't quite there yet, but I see companies starting to acknowledge that, right? So I do see companies understanding, like, people taking a day off and actually, like, getting off of the calendars and off of the team's chats and off of their phones. And so I think as a leader, if you're a leader, again, embody how you want your folks to live. So if you're on vacation, don't be checking emails, don't be responding, don't be having that expectation, like, take a vacation. But companies, I think, are slowly seeing that trend. I would wish they would do a little bit more. I would love to see more sabbaticals. I'd love to see a little bit longer, like more than like a week here or a few days there, right? But I think they are starting to acknowledge that we have to have balance, and we have to have, we have to figure out that work life, turning off the cameras. You don't always have to be online all the time, right? How do we make sure that we're staying productive? And when we were in the pandemic, I think there was a little bit more of a push to, like, okay, hey, we're all going to shut down for, 30 minutes, go do whatever you need to do, go take a walk. Or I used to have a leader that would actually have his team be like, they were walking meetings. So they would have their meeting on the phone, but they would ensure that everybody was walking and getting up and moving around, so they weren't just sitting at their desks. So I think, we're starting to see some of that. I'm hoping that we're going to see a lot more of that, and we're going to see a lot more balance, as well as different shifting hours, and allowing people to kind of figure out how to navigate their own life to support them professionally.
Well, I always like to recommend the book Thrive by Arianna Huffington, where she has all the data. I'm sure you know it, that she has all the data that doing these things. And she also would do walking meetings and has a nap room at Huffington Post, and really encouraged her executive team to get 7 hours of sleep and keep their phones outside of their room. And she found that not only did her bottom line do better, but every other company that they've studied, including Aetna here in Connecticut, those kinds of practices, the bottom lines would come up, because this isn't just to be nice. We actually perform better when we're not stressed.
Exactly. And it's funny, because the reason why we started this whole Empowered You program was the woman that is helping me lead it. She's phenomenal. She's an amazing coach. She actually does a lot of work in the HR space. And she said, we can throw as many employee engagement things at our folks. We can throw, ping pong tables and ice cream and all these great, like, perks. But if they're not fulfilled personally, if they're not settled and balanced personally, it doesn't matter, because they're not going to actually show up professionally the way that we need to, which is why we've advocated for, let's do this program about how to find your own personal fulfillment first, which has to do with, owning your happiness, owning the meditation, owning the exercise, owning all the things that you need to feel settled and balanced, so that you can show up and be a better professional, a better mother, a better partner for whomever in your life. So it's kind of a little reverse psychology, but it's true, right? Because if we're actually healthy and whole and happy, we probably come to work a lot differently, and we show up a lot differently. So absolutely, I completely get behind all of that.
Yeah. And when we have that authenticity too, I'm sure that translates everywhere, both in the workspace and the home space. As far as working from home, has that really helped women, or do you think it's actually better to be in person sometimes?
I personally think it's better to be in person, because I am guilty. I am at home now. All of my clients are remote. And my husband's like, you need to get out of the house. And he's absolutely right, because when I would go into an office, I would have that commute time where I would listen to podcasts, or I would read a book, or I would have my downtime, right? I would get away from the craziness. And I think you also have that human connection. And as humans, we need to have connections with others, right? We also probably were a lot more social because we would go to lunch during the workday, or we don't maybe meet a little bit after work for drinks or something like that. But we had a little bit more. What's crazy is I think we had more balance when we had to go into an office, because we could actually also shut down. Hey, I've got to leave at 4:30 because I have to go get my kids. Now, right, you can work up until 5 or 5:30 because you don't have to run home and be in the traffic to commute home. So I feel like it's hurt us. I know people are like, no, I want to stay home. I want to be, and there's some balance there too, because you can get things done in the day. But I also feel like you can get a little bit stir crazy because it feels like Groundhog Day, and you're never leaving your surroundings, and you're not actually meeting and like working with other people, which is critical to have that human connection.
So what would you recommend women do in our final 3 minutes together? Are there some must-read books or websites that you recommend that people do to just kind of avoid this burnout?
Yeah, I think honestly, so here's just going back to the tips. Acknowledge it, right? Know what's going on, be able to recognize the triggers, find things that you do, what you enjoy doing, leaning into the green. Get yourself into a good physical and mental mindset practice and routine. Again, it doesn't have to be hours and hours and hours, but find some things that you can do that can start to help alleviate that stress. And then find a community. Find a community that supports you. Find people that want to help you and lift you up and really support where you're going into. So that would be my tips. As far as books, goodness gracious, I'm trying to think.
If there's not one that you give your students, I'm just saying, we're picking your brain, so I love to give people some practical takeaways.
Yeah, so our program is actually based off of the Happy for No Reason work done by the woman who partnered with Jack Canfield. Of course, her name is slipping me right now. Chicken Soup for the Soul for Women.
Yep.
But that's really, Happy for No Reason. And that's really what it is how do you find happiness? How do you reduce stress? And how do you find fulfillment within your everyday?
And how can women work with you? I know you do the Empower You coaching.
Yeah. Yep, you can find me at crossimpactcoaching.com, or you can link in with me at Betsy Kauffman and just find me, chat with me. I would love to connect. I would love for you all to join us. We're starting our next round of cohorts May 8th. So we're cutting off registration next week. So we would love to widen our circle and bring women into that mix. You get a beautiful pink jacket. So
okay, that's
pull over as part of it. Yeah, absolutely.
You can be a pink lady. All right. So the good thing is just taking notice, as you said, taking that moment to acknowledge that you are burning out and that is not okay can be the first step. And then we got to be a little gentle with ourselves as we start to change. But ultimately, the old adage of we got to fill our cups first, or there is nothing left for anyone else.
Correct. Absolutely. For sure.
Well, we appreciate you spending your time with us, and I've got one final minute with you, so I want to ask if people are nervous about going to their boss. I'm sure you deal with this, and they need to ask for more balance, or maybe now we say rhythm. How should they approach that?
Yeah, I think one, understand, why, and explain why, and make sure and have that this is why I need this. I need this because I'm either feeling burnt out, or I have stress, or I'm worried about my health, right? And just, be authentic. Don't be afraid. Put yourself out there and be confident in what you're asking for, because you need it, because you have to take care of yourself and you have to be the CEO of your own life. And I think if you approach it with that mindset, it's going to go over much better.
Okay. Be specific, explain why, and hey, a lot of times it can have some organizational benefit too. So better worker, better company. Okay. Betsy Kauffman, who is a stress management expert, especially for women. She runs the Empower You cohorts. Find her on LinkedIn, find her online, get some help, or just add some more, lean into that green. Start color coding your good events on your calendar. Betsy, thank you for being here.
Awesome. Thanks, Kara. I appreciate it.
If you want more information on the cutting edge of wellness, you can follow me on social media at Kara Sundlin and join the Kara's Cures Facebook group. Just search Kara's Cures. I do love to share this content there. Have a great day, everyone, and be well.